Testing. We're testing.
Testing.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So today's video is going to be a little bit different. I'm here with my mom.
Hello.
And I thought it would be fun just to ask her some questions about some things, and we'll go from there. This video is going to test my audio editing skills in a way they haven't been tested before, so you're going to have to bear with me. And we'll hop right in here. My mom's now asked if she gets any intro other than this is my mom. So sure, Kelly, why don't you give yourself an intro?
Well, my name was enough.
Oh my God.
My name is Kelly.
She'll go by Kelly, not just Mom, I guess. Yeah. So I was 5 when Princess Diana died, and I have done some research and read stuff from that era, but I don't really have any memory of it. So I thought I'd ask first, what do you remember about Princess Diana?
At first, it seemed very exciting and new, and she was young. She was only 4 years older than I am. Is that right?
Ish.
So when she was marrying Charles
Did you like Prince Charles back then?
No.
People said that he was considered cute at one point. Was he ever actually considered cute?
Not in my lifetime.
Your lifetime. Okay.
And although at that point I didn't like him because I didn't dislike him. I just thought he was sort of goofy and weird and nerdy and, you know.
So she was exciting.
He didn't seem like a catch but for his title.
Oh. Well.
To this American teenager anyway. So when Diana was marrying Charles, I was in high school. And it was kind of the first time I remember paying a whole lot of attention to the royal family. We had neighbors and good friends who the parents were from England, and they used to go every summer, and they'd bring back funky food and games, and we used to play a game called London Underground. So at one point I thought I could go ride the tube with no issues because I knew every stop on the London Underground. But I didn't really pay that much attention to the British royal family until Charles and Diana. Although I do think I vaguely have a memory of watching Anne's wedding, or part of it. But anyway.
So did you watch the wedding?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Like live or later?
You know, I'm pretty sure live because later was not so much a thing then. Although it was around the same time we got our first VCR, so possibly.
Maybe it was later?
Possibly later. But I sort of feel like it was probably live.
Do you remember when things kind of started going wrong?
I feel like it was quickly, but I don't know that that's real or just my imagination, but it seemed like there were rumblings of bad, at least fairly early.
Well, so I asked because you were basically the same age-ish as I am now. Actually, I think you were younger than I am now. When things, like the tabloid, it was at its peak, like the shitting on Diana was at its peak. And do you remember how that was, received? Were you guys oh, why are they being so mean to her? Or were you guys kind of on the, oh, Diana's screwing up train?
Okay, again.
What?
This is, now, you have access to British tabloids on the internet and Twitter.
I guess, okay, you didn't have the same thing.
And so there wasn't the same as an American teenager, young adult in Southern California. I don't know that I had a clue or much of a clue about what was going on in British tabloids, particularly. Yeah. American tabloids, you see at the grocery store, you kind of look at the cover. Yeah. But that was before the National Enquirer had ever been right about anything that we knew about. I mean,
have they ever been right?
Oh yeah, they busted what's his name? John Edwards.
Oh.
But anyway, it's when you glanced, you didn't believe anything on them,
Yeah.
you know. So
I do have to say, we spent a surprise layover in London on the way to our honeymoon, and the tabloid culture there is something completely different. I mean, we went on the tube into London from the airport, and everyone who was sitting down was reading a tabloid. Like, I've never seen someone actually read a tabloid in the United States. Like, just sitting reading a tabloid.
you have a relative that
Who's the
gets
relative?
them and used to get them and read them with some regularity.
Who gets them delivered?
Not delivered.
What do you mean?
But bought and had around all the time. Maybe that's changed.
Who? Tell us.
One
I
of your
don't know
one
her.
of your grandmothers.
Which grandma? Is it Linda?
It is.
No, I've never seen a tabloid at our house.
She used to have them all the
Oh
time.
my God, Mom is spilling the tea on the family. Okay, well then never mind.
All right.
Never mind. Okay, but like, so when they start, like, when they actually get divorced, I would imagine that would have made splat.
By
Yeah.
then, yes.
Yeah.
And by then, I don't remember when that Andrew Morton book came out. I mean, that was like a huge deal. I
Yeah.
don't remember where in the divorce timeline that came out.
Yeah.
And I mean, way before that, there were obviously rumblings.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know how much attention I was paying because, again, we didn't kind of have 24/7 on our phone news
Yeah.
in
It was different.
the mid 80s, late 80s,
Well, now we're talking about like the early 90s.
early 90s.
Which, I mean,
yeah.
still didn't have news on your phone in the early 90s. And
Right.
now you have a kid to watch out for.
Well, the to sort of bookend this, in the end of Diana's life,
Yeah.
I remember exceedingly well.
I know.
Because your sister was born the Friday that the Queen gave her finally gave her speech.
Yeah.
Which I definitely didn't. I mean, I don't think I knew about what a big deal it was that she hadn't spoken until I saw the Queen.
Oh. But then when you saw her, were you kind of like, where have you been? Or
No.
like, no.
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 I didn't know that
You
was
missed
a
that
thing.
whole part.
I missed that whole part. But
Yeah.
like I said, I was having your sister. I was,
You were busy.
I was busy, and that was a busy day. The Queen gave her speech, and your sister was born, and Mother Teresa died.
Oh my God.
And the way that whole week, I mean, I had been sort of into the whole Diana thing all week because we got the news, I think, Sunday night that she died. Probably before we probably knew before a lot of people in Britain did because
The time
yeah.
difference,
and it happened so late. And it took so long for them to say she was dead. But, which is I have another good story about that. I don't know if it's a good story, but, I think we were watching a baseball game and your grandmother called me and said, "Are you watching the baseball game?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "I don't know if they'll break in with this, but I think Princess Diana is dead."
Oh my gosh.
And so, and I don't remember. I think maybe they actually did. But anyway, some channel started broadcasting Sky TV and American channel.
Yeah.
Because again, this was kind of
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
And so we just started watching that, and I mean, I think I had that on.
Can I ask a stupid question that you're going to laugh at me and maybe some of the older people listening to this are going to laugh at me? At that point, were there like 24-hour news channels?
There was CNN.
Okay.
For sure.
Yeah.
I don't remember when. I think MSNBC came in at some point, but it took MSNBC a while before it was really just like a news channel. They sort of had weird things and that other news channel I don't remember. I think was started sometime in the 95,
She's talking about Fox News.
the 95, 96.
the news channel that shall not be named.
So it probably existed in 97, but then as now I've not watched it. So my OBGYN at the time was English.
Oh.
And as while she was delivering your sister, she was ranting about the French emergency medical system And the fact that in England, as in the United States, the whole idea is to get people to the hospital as quickly as you can. You get them in the ambulance, you get them to the hospital. In France, apparently, they have doctors often on ambulances, and they treat in the field.
Huh.
And apparently that happened with Diana. I think she was at the scene for an hour, maybe.
Oh, wow. I don't know.
Maybe longer.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly. I don't remember.
So as she's delivering your
As
baby,
she's ranting about the French emergency medicine system.
I have French followers. We love you. Sorry.
Yes, it was just sort of, it was funny. Yeah. But since I had my own room at the hospital, because we learned that it didn't cost too much money to have my own room after I had her, and I had a brand new infant who was in the room, and so I was awake at 2 or 3 in the morning, and I watched Diana's funeral live. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so that's, I mean, I remember that. I mean, that was just such a huge deal, and I kind of feel like that was probably my first. I didn't have the same, like, annoyance with the Queen, I don't know what you'd call it, in that week that she wasn't talking, which, again, my knowledge is mostly from the movie The Queen. But
good movie.
Just the whole fact that Diana had died, that she had been hounded by the press, that directly led to her death, that was kind of maybe my first feeling like the royal family had problems in that regard. I mean, I always...
So it's kind of weird.
I mean, there's always issues.
Yeah.
You know, as an American, it's hard to kind of, you know, think about this. You know, you're born into royalty, and it gives you some sort of status, and you know, all that kind of stuff. But the kind of this is bad from a tabloid hounding perspective definitely started, at least in my mind, with Diana and her death. Well, her life too. I mean,
yeah. So to change gears, you know, I talked about it on my intro. Like, I've been kind of plugged in since like 2011, paying attention, probably more so than the average American, but mostly on Tumblr to begin with, which was mostly like photo based. But I started when they first got married. You know, I was like 19. I'm talking about William and Kate. When they first got married, I was like 19. I was in college. They covered all the newspapers. I thought it was great. William still had vestiges of being handsome. I thought Kate was pretty and nice and all. And then I started losing interest around George's birth for a lot of reasons. But before I started talking your ear off about it, what was your kind of, as Diana's, you know, son, moving forward? We know there's kind of issues. What did you think about kind of this new generation of royal?
Oh, I initially was a huge fan.
Yeah.
Of mostly Kate, but you know, Will and Kate. I mean, I thought, you know, as they grew up, I mean, Harry was kind of a goofy looking little kid, and he was. I mean, you know, in a cute way.
Yeah.
And, you know, he had some issues with some things.
That might have been a little inflated.
But he wore a Nazi costume to a party.
Yes.
There are few ways to spin that worse than it was. Anyway, and, you know, so Harry seemed to have some growing pains in there. And, you know, William seemed like a good guy. He looked so much like his mother for a long time. I think that's changed now somewhat, but I love them. I mean,
yeah,
I used to get teased a little bit about my fondness for Kate by
was your change in opinion only because of me, or was it was
no
okay
I don't think I thought much about, for example, the royals' work ethic before you started talking about it. But the whole, you know, wow, you know, Harry's really done something with his life, seemingly, and done good things, and, then it was, Meghan comes into the picture, and it's, Meghan spelled like you, which, by the way,
I know I hate it. I like it now. I like it now.
In fact, you used to yell at me about why did I put an H in the middle of your name?
For a while, okay, to my credit, for a while, when I was a kid in the 90s and early 2000s, it was hard to find things with my spelling.
Yes.
Which, when you're like going out and you're like 8 years old and your grandma wants to buy everyone a cool keychain and everyone gets keychain except for you because your mom put an H in your name, wasn't the best. I like it now. I like my name now. Okay, but we're not talking about Meghan yet.
Okay.
We're not talking about Meghan yet.
Okay. Anyway, I think what cemented my current feelings about Will and Kate was definitely in large part due to the contrast between them and Harry and Meghan.
And even before I started talking your ear off about it. So it wasn't just my fault.
Correct.
Well, it's that was my stepdad. Okay, anyway, we're back. We're ready. I don't know, and it's funny that you say something about work ethic, because I do think like British people and American people view the royal family really differently. And I guess I always looked at them like, okay, they're doing something, at least they're doing charity work, or they're supposed to do. And right, wrong, or indifferent, Charles and his siblings have always put in a lot of work hours, work engagements, and then William and Kate come along and they're not really doing anything. And so as an American, I'm like, what are you doing to, have this lifestyle? And for the British, it's like completely different.
Well, that's probably right, because for us, it's it has no effect on us whatsoever.
Until they start attacking one of us.
Yes. We can kind of look at it from
yeah,
afar, and it's just kind of a fairy tale thing with castles and princes and princesses and the queen, but it's not something that's ingrained in our life. It's not something that's part of our kind of collective feeling of community or history or so. It's kind of easy to just, kind of look at it very superficially and not really think about what, if anything, they're actually doing. And honestly, we talked about this a little bit the other day, but I kind of feel like William and Kate were trying to forge a path, and maybe this was sincere and maybe it wasn't, and maybe I'm just totally wrong, but it seemed like they were trying to bring some normalcy and some down to earth qualities, and some we're a young family with young kids. And I think what I've maybe realized in thinking about this and talking with you is, and maybe what the Harry and Meghan experience shows, is that you can't do that. If you're a member of the British royal family, especially in the line, however you want to look at it, someone so enmeshed in that, there isn't a way to be a regular family. And I think maybe that's the... I don't think there's a way to call it have your cake and eat it too, whatever you want to call it. But I don't think that if you're, in
that institution,
especially at the level of being the, future king, you're not... You can't have a normal family.
No. Well,
or even maybe anything approaching that, and maybe there's solutions to that. We've discussed many times, other European monarchies have evolved into something that is much more, not obviously, no royalty is ever going to be as we commoners are, but something much more of a semblance of a normal, what we think of as a normal life.
Well, and I think, we've talked about and argued about this before, but I do, when Diana married in, she was like 19, 20 years old, and they worked her, right? Like, she had crazy engagement numbers. They worked, nobody wanted that again. Or at least nobody with a brain wanted that again. And I would argue that there was a middle ground. And that if they had just if Will and Kate had just kind of put in a little bit more work, you know, on Tumblr, it became like this thing of, you know, whenever they wanted the perks of royal life, like the private helicopter flights to engagements an hour away, that kind of thing, then they were royal. They were, you know. But when they would get criticized, again, maybe for the same thing, taking the royal flights and, oh, it's just we're a normal family and we want to get back to our kids. Like, it started becoming a shield for what I would argue was not great behavior, and really, really low engagement numbers. And I think that's kind of just what started off and at first it wasn't even like active dislike. It was just like I just stopped following. You know, like I got off Tumblr. Things were changing in my life. I was graduating from college. I had less time to spend on the internet, that kind of thing. But it wasn't really active like dislike until Harry and Meghan.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been slower to the active dislike, and I'm maybe getting there. I'm not 100% sure I'm even there yet, but I think I'm quickly getting there, mostly because of the whole Harry and Meghan and the treatment of Meghan and...
Okay, now we can talk about Meghan.
Okay.
Because that was the next prompt. We have a loose outline. You know,
shockingly.
Shockingly. This is really good. Okay. You know, I've been like in it, but that's why I wanted to ask someone who isn't as in it. And I think these perspectives are important because as a group, I think sometimes we think that everyone is watching this situation as closely as we do. And that's just not true. And so I think outside kind of opinions, that's why I brought my mom. So what, you know, especially let's just start when she first was kind of announced. What did you remember what you thought? Other than that, she shared a lovely name with your daughter.
I mean, that was my first thought was that, and I probably called you to say, "Ha! Don't you like?"
I think you did. I think you did, actually.
I mean, I thought it was sort of interesting and cool that she was American. I don't know. I mean, I don't think I thought a whole lot about it at the very outset.
Yeah. See, I knew from Tumblr, the minute she was announced, I was like, oh, this lady's totally screwed. She's totally screwed.
Yeah. See, I don't even think I mostly thought about that. I mean, I thought she seemed a more serious choice than people he'd chosen in the past, at least as portrayed in whatever.
Have you ever seen Suits? I've never seen Suits.
No.
Okay.
And you know, in whatever capacity we used to see Harry with, you know, various girlfriends. I mean, even though Meghan was an actress, she didn't seem like a superficial person to me, even from the start.
Well, I think it was weird. So, you know, when William and Kate were getting married, there were literally articles about how Kate wasn't going to be like Diana. Like Charles is, what's that? I think Joan Rivers. She was really good friends with Charles and Camilla, which is funny because she actually roasts them all the time. But before she died, she was friends with them. And she released this whole article about how Charles had told her that Kate knew the job. She was all good. There were a lot of like articles in that vein that she was not going to be another Diana. And you
mean from the perspective of being like thrown in?
No, from like the perspective of, and it still is the kind of royal family line of everything that happened was Diana's fault. She was too precocious. She didn't know her role. She leaked to the tabloids. It still is the line. And I think it's ebbed and flowed. I think definitely after her death and after they were scared with those awful poll numbers and blah, 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 I think they kind of... But then they still had her young sons, and they were kind of also used as a shield. And then Charles and Camilla got married, and it was like, oh, kind of the narrative was let's just move on. But still, and now, I mean, William just made a speech not that long ago about the Martin Bashir thing.
Yeah.
where he was like, my paranoid mother, blah, blah, blah. So it's becoming kind of the royal line again, and I think has been for a little while, that that whole episode was her fault.
Well, I think that interview just devastated them, and obviously it's been quoted ever since, and I think they're grasping at, the fact that however the interview was procured was perhaps not entirely legit. I think they're trying to style it now as that Diana was somehow tricked into doing something she didn't want to do, and then they can morph that into, so she said things that she didn't mean. And I think however it was procured, I think she wanted to do that, and I think she did it of her, basically her own free will, and I don't think she said anything other than what she believed to be what the truth of what happened, just because of Martin Bashir may have engaged in bad conduct.
So, but back to so when William and Kate are getting married, there's all this talk about how Kate is not going to be like Diana, because again, the royal line is Diana helped with that, that most of this was Diana's fault. Poor Charles was dealing with this crazy woman, blah blah blah.
Right.
So there were all these things talking about how Kate's not going to be like Diana, and then Meghan comes along and again, she was different. She wasn't blonde. She was different in a lot of ways. She was age appropriate. And people did take her seriously more so than any of Harry's girlfriends. And so when she was when it was announced they were dating, and then they did the whole dating thing, they showed up at Invictus Games for the first time. They hit it off. It was great. Then they announced their engagement. I just remember thinking, like, oh God, she's totally screwed, because she has like a personality, and people were so like focused on her. I was like, uh-oh. Did you get the same, or were you just like, oh, Harry has this cute wife named Meghan, which is a great name?
No, I think I probably thought to the extent that I thought at that point that, oh wow, what's she getting herself into, part of that is just the whole, part of marrying into that family seems to be, in large part, giving up one's identity and thoughts and opinions. And, I thought, this is going to be hard for an American.
Yeah.
Especially
like an established, she wasn't 19 years old. She was coming into the family.
Right. She was established.
Yeah.
She had a voice in many different ways, through her work, through her website, through her, whatever. No, I don't mean website, her blog. Thank you for not saying okay, boomer. I
didn't even want to that time.
So, I just thought, this is going to be quite an adjustment.
Yeah.
And I don't think I even thought about the race, tabloid, any of that. I'm not sure that entered into my mind for a little while.
No, the minute there were pictures of her, Tumblr lost its mind. It was racism immediately. And it was like, oh, this is going to suck. But, I don't know. I was also kind of hopeful. She had that shitty thing with her dad. And to me, it was just so obvious that he was a shitty person and her sister was a shitty person, or her half whatever sister was a shitty person. But immediately how they started talking about her family and hitting her over the head with that, which is such like a narrative that goes along with a lot of strong women. The fact that she was immediately demonized for parts of her family's shitty behavior, that was like, oh no. But then Charles walked her partly down the aisle and was so nice to Doria on the wedding day, and there was kind of hope, okay, maybe they aren't going to screw this up. But that was quickly dashed.
Well, I think one thing that whole family knows, and Charles certainly knows after his 70 however many years of life, is how to put on an appearance. And how to behave in public, for the most part.
Well, for the most part. They still did embarrassing shit during that. Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah.
But I think when they have to, and obviously a wedding day like that millions of people are watching around the world, I think they
put on a show.
Put on a show.
Yeah. Well, and so, I mean, they said themselves, Harry and Meghan said themselves that the family, I mean, the tabloids were already being their racist ass selves, but the family wasn't that bad until they went to Australia. And I know that's not the name of the tour, but I can't pronounce Oceania? Oceania?
Isn't it just Oceania?
Is it Oceania? I don't
I
know.
don't know.
See, okay, so I just call it Australia, even though I know I'm wrong. You know, which again draws parallels to the whole Diana thing. They go down to ocean places and
The South Pacific.
the South Pacific. They go down the South Pacific and it goes really well. She's announcing that she's pregnant. The tour goes really well. They're very popular. And that's when they say the family decided that they weren't going to support them anymore, which again draws parallels to Diana. So when did you kind of know that like this was bad?
I don't 100% remember. Because again, I don't follow the British tabloids much. So I don't know when I realized that it was, I mean, it might have even been, you know, relatively close to the time they said they were leaving. I mean, clearly they were incredibly popular. And I don't know, I have a hard time distinguishing between how people feel about them here and how people feel about them in Britain, which I think are probably vastly different.
Yeah.
Maybe inverse. I mean, I think the vast majority of Americans, to the extent they think about it, have very positive feelings about Harry and Meghan.
Well, certain ones.
Yeah. Well, but I think probably the number of good feelings to bad feelings here, the good feelings way outweigh the bad feelings, as opposed to in England where I think the bad feelings probably way outweigh the good feelings.
Well, I don't know.
I'm guessing about, and maybe it's wrong. And,
I think it's hard to get a handle on because they always release these polls of like 500 people and they're like, oh my God, their ratings are in the toilet. And it's like, okay, but who were these like 500, 1,200 people that you asked, you know, and then that runs the headline. So I don't know. It's hard to say.
Well, but by any objective measure, when you look at, say, book sales or response to Meghan's birthday announcement or... I mean, it seems to me the numbers are pretty huge, and I don't know whether those are American numbers, worldwide numbers, whatever, but at least here I feel like Meghan is very popular.
Well, and I think that really grinds their gears. I think her success makes them very angry.
That's undoubtedly true.
I don't remember when I kind of realized like, oh, this is really bad. Actually, okay, that's a lie. I do know. When Archie was born. And it wasn't the whole monkey thing because it was just like, oh yeah, a boomer calling a mixed race kid a monkey, like not exactly shocking. No offense to the other boomers in this room. But it was the fact that the family knew nothing about it. They knew nothing, you know, and it was just like, oh, like something is very, very, very wrong with this picture. That's kind of when I knew, like, oh, this is not good. This is going downhill in a really awful way. But anyway, you said something over coffee the other morning, which was to the line of like something like Meghan Markle was their Obama, and I want you to talk about it.
Well, I think what I said was, it's like, for the United States, a black man got elected president, and the country, not the whole country, obviously, a very...
Too many
of a very vocal minority of the country lost their shit entirely, and has not. And since then, it has only gotten worse, and it's 100% because a black man was elected president.
Yes.
And I mean, I think that's what led, in a pretty absolutely direct line to Donald Trump being president.
Yes.
And many of the issues that are happening, I think, are 100% because we had the audacity to elect a black man president.
You mean it's not economic insecurity?
No. And I think Meghan Markle had the same effect in Britain. I think a person of color in the royal family, especially marrying someone in the line of succession. I mean, this wasn't the Queen's third cousin's nephew.
Yeah.
I think they lost their shit.
Yeah.
And I think, I've been kind of, I've looked kind of now that we've been talking about this more. You've been doing some of this stuff. You have your Twitter page and all that. And, I have like literally at comments on about Meghan and about Harry even, that people write in response to, perfectly innocuous things.
Yeah.
And the response is just over the top, outrage and anger and
it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
Why are you so angry?
Yeah, it doesn't. There's no way to explain it other than they just cannot deal with a black woman being in the royal family, just like a great number, not great, a large,
too many,
obnoxious number of Americans couldn't deal with Obama being president.
Well, and I feel like they have definitely, I hate using the term culture wars because that's something that's used by Fox News, but I do think that, part of the reason that I started not being such a fan of William and Kate's and not following so much is they've each been assigned sides. And I don't even know if they want to be on these sides, but they've definitely been assigned sides where the royal family, a lot of very hardcore, I see this, my speech impediment comes up, right-wingers have, even since Meghan was announced, even more extremists have gravitated towards the royal family, have gravitated towards William and Kate as this like example of this white family that's doing everything right, that is, even when they don't do anything or when they do the very minimum, is just exalting them for existing. And Harry and Meghan have been assigned as the, quote unquote woke, which is a racist term, and kind of othered. And they've each been assigned sides in this overarching story that we're all trapped in right now, of kind of like good and bad and white and not white. And I think that explains a lot of the hatred that's sent towards them. Well,
yeah, I mean, just to use another example, American example, and to go back to the Obamas, the Obama family, to the extent that we really know anything about public figures, who we obviously don't personally know, and all we have is what we see and hear and read. Good marriage, good family, well-adjusted kids, and they're absolutely reviled by a segment of people who will tell you, who will cast someone who looks like Obama as the devil in a Bible miniseries, who will tell you about what horrible, terrible, really awful people they are. And then what follows is the Trump family, who is, by any rational measure, immoral, grifters, cheaters, stealers, liars.
Yeah. But they're
married multiple times. And they're great and they're wonderful, and people will tell you that God chose Donald Trump as the president, and it's insane. I can't even wrap my mind around that, but it just seems like a very, and I think as far as families go, the Cambridges are not the Trumps.
No,
but it's just the putting on a pedestal of the white family and othering and maligning the black family is very familiar.
Yes.
It feels familiar.
Well, the other thing that's really familiar to me is you would ask people why they didn't like Obama, and they couldn't give you a reason for a while. Now they'll make something up, but for a while you'd ask them, okay, you hate him, why? And they would just kind of mumble. They couldn't give you an answer, and that's the same with Meghan Markle. Right. They either hit you with just like a paragraph of misinformation, or they can't tell you, they just don't like her. And it's just like, okay, maybe we should examine that a little bit. Like, why are you so willing to dislike someone that you don't know, that most of what you know is from a tabloid source, which then they'll claim they don't read the tabloids as they're quoting the tabloids back to you, which is fun. And that was the other thing we were talking about over coffee the other morning, is like kind of the same as American politics right now. And I think British politics to a degree, where both countries are going through this kind of fun little right-wing nationalism bubble, which is great, is that how do you deal with just like complete bullshit? You know, like the comments under some of my videos will just be like a paragraph of stuff that someone completely made up or quoted from a tabloid that's just like factually wrong. But I don't know even what to do. Like, what do you say to that?
Well, I think what you actually do in practicality is say nothing, because I think those people want nothing more than to engage. It's just depressing that there are so many people that have such clearly
taken the bait,
have just believed this. And I think, you know, kind of going back to what we think of famous people, you know, I mean, I don't know. I don't know them. I obviously can't have real insight into their relationship. But I mean, the whole Will and Kate and Harry thing seemed to be a thing. And I mean, I think Will and Harry growing up, largely because of circumstances, if nothing else, I mean, perhaps they would have been close anyway. I believed they were close. And I believed that Will and Kate and Harry kind of had this thing going where they were, you know, having this foundation and doing some stuff and genuinely seemed to like each other. And that seems to have just totally, obviously gone out the window. And especially, I think, with Will, because I think he's maybe been the impetus for some of this stuff. And that's kind of sad. And again, maybe there were things behind the scenes. Obviously, we don't know. But I do think that not only... I think there's some level, because I still want to believe that Will and Kate sincerely wanted to have some sort of normalcy in their lives, that there's some level of jealousy on a personal level. Not just that Harry and Meghan were getting press, because, I mean, you know, a lot of that was manufactured. There'd be Meghan all over the news when she hadn't really done anything.
Yeah.
There was a meme on Twitter the other day about, you know, Andrew versus Meghan, and how Meghan has, you know, not really done anything to offend anyone, and certainly hasn't done anything illegal, and but yet she's the one who's in the news constantly, and Andrew's kind of, you know,
probably not
back
a coincidence.
page maybe, right? So, but I mean, I think things have been made about jealousy on kind of a popularity level, but I mean, I think there was some large measure of jealousy on a personal level, and especially now that Harry and Meghan have stepped away and gotten out and are living here and living their own lives, and have kind of put their family first, and I mean their actual family, not the crown.
Yeah.
I think there's some measure of, you know, I think Will and Kate at some level wish that
they could do the same thing. Well, and I think even if, you know, Harry and Meghan so far have been very successful, despite, you know, what you hear about. And I think there is not only jealousy about them being able to leave, but I think there is a knowledge that if certain family members did the same thing, they would not be as successful. And I think there's a lot of unease about that. But I also...
that's probably true. And I mean, actually, as far as them being successful, I mean, as far as what we see here, and again, I think in England it's totally different.
Yeah.
But I mean, at least from, you know, I realize I kind of self-curate what I see through my Twitter feed and things, but it's largely positive, and it's largely, you know, huge. I mean, these big, the Netflix and
Yeah.
all this stuff. I mean, it's very, it all seems positive and good and successful and,
Well, and I think, too, the British like to pretend that they don't care about American success. There's a very, like, hoity-toity nature of, oh, well, yeah, they're commercially successful, but it's very Hollywood. Oh, it doesn't matter.
Well,
and
it's
I think,
unseemly for a royal
whatever.
to actually make money.
Yes, even though most have, but
Yeah.
of course the black one is now doing
Yeah.
it, so that is bad. But I think it's all bullshit is basically what I'm getting to, is I think they put out these headlines of, oh, we don't care, we don't care, we don't, like, it gets to the line of, you're protesting a little too much, guys. I think they very much care that they've been so commercially successful. So, going forward, as someone who, again, doesn't watch all that much, what do you think the royal family should do at this point? If anything.
Well, I mean, I don't know what they can do, because short of some complete upheaval, restructuring of the royal family, there's bounds within, what they can do and it would seem somewhat insincere, I think, at this point for them. Are they suddenly going to embrace Meghan? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how they would even do that sincerely. So, I mean, personally, as an American, I think they should, move towards the more continental European current versions of the monarchy, where, the line between the royal family and politics is kind of completely severed. They become completely ceremonial. They
Slim down, which is, I mean, supposedly what Charles
yeah.
wants to do.
They just kind of slim down, have no, the queen doesn't get her red box, or the king, and they don't meet with the prime minister. They don't have any governmental function at all. They just are the kind of tourist magnets that that is really, in large part, probably why they're still around. I mean,
Someone was talking about how it's kind of different in the UK, because the royal family and kind of their peer system is so ingrained into their government that part of the reason that they've stuck around so long is because getting rid of them would be a monumental, basically a restructuring of the entire government.
And that's why I say I don't know what they can do really within the strictures of their existence.
I think they could stop going on the attack, because they're still leaking.
Well, yeah,
they need to stop going. Yeah. They need to stop attacking.
Right.
That would do a good deal of good if they just shut up. But I don't think their egos will allow that.
That's probably true. Especially Charles. I mean, I get the feeling, obviously, that Charles is, fairly narcissistic, and I'm not sure his ego could take that. And I mean, you mix the narcissism in with the fact that, presumably he becomes king, but it's not going to be for,
She's still going.
She's still going, and it's it's not going to be. I mean, not only is it not going to be anything like his mother's reign, which obviously is, was started very. I
think she was young. 27.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was she even that old?
Yeah, I looked it up for another video.
But I mean, he's gonna. It's not going to be. I don't think he envisioned that he was not going to be king until he was 70 something, if that happened. So I mean, I think that's also, I fear a little bit about when he becomes king. He might want to make his mark quickly and
try and do a bunch of stuff.
And I don't know exactly what that is, but I'm not sure that I think it'll be great.
Well, and I think on some kind of lizard level, they understand that when the queen goes, they lose a lot of their protection. I mean, because we don't have anything like that in the United States. There's been no politician that's really been around in that much good graces. I mean, for basically a vast majority of the population's entire life, right, unless they're in their late 90s, right, early 100s. I mean, And so, and now that she's become grandma, you know, someone else was talking the other day about how when she used to have kind of age peers, they would attack her more. But now that she's 90 something years old, she is a huge shield for them. And I think they know on some base functioning level, even if they might be loath to admit it, that it's going to be kind of bad news when she goes. They're going to lose a lot of their protection. Which, and then I think is doubly kind of stupid. You know, we haven't talked about the Commonwealth at all, and we'll just do that briefly. But, you know, they're supposedly in charge of this Commonwealth of Nations that's a majority black. And so now you're going to lose your, like, figurehead, and you chased out your only mixed race men. Like, the thinking behind that is just asinine to me.
Yeah.
I think a lot of countries are going to leave.
Yeah. I mean, it feels to me, and again, I don't know this, but it feels to me like a lot of Commonwealth countries are kind of on the verge, have been on the verge anyway, of, you know, we're out of here kind of thing. And yeah, I think when the Queen goes, that's going to accelerate. To the extent, I mean, the Queen, yes, especially now that she's a grandmother, I think has been kind of, her image has been softened up quite a bit. And people kind of feel like she's, you know, their grandmother maybe, or have kind of a little bit of warm fuzzies towards the Queen. I don't think Charles is getting warm fuzzies, and I don't think he's gonna do anything to go in that direction.
No.
I mean, I think he's in fact gonna just barge in and make Camilla queen and do all kinds of things he said he wouldn't do, and it's gonna start badly and probably go downhill from there.
Well, and I don't think William's getting warm fuzzies either.
No.
So I think she's...
I mean, who knows? I mean, we're talking a greater amount of time, but...
I don't know. I don't think he's getting warm fuzzies.
Yeah, no. I think that's probably...
Yeah.
I think that's probably true.
All right. Well, I have almost an hour of audio to edit. I'm so screwed. Thank you for doing this with me. It was fun.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, well maybe you'll come back.
Okay.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.